Okay, so now we're ready to pick up the stitches to work the neckband. We're going to do that. I like to use my circular needles, but you're welcome to use double-pointed needles if you like. And we're going to attach the yarn tail. So what we're going to do is, this is where we ended the shoulder seam, and we're going to go into, again, the V of that, because we want to leave this one little front leg here to match this little seam that we created on the shoulder. So we're going to pick up the loop from the back of that V, and there's a little loop behind it, so we're going to pick that one up as well. So we just place our yarn over and pull it through. Again, here's that V. We're going to insert our needle into the back loop of that V, and there's a corresponding loop behind it. Wrap the yarn around and pull it through. And it's easy, it's quite easy to pick up stitches in this manner, and this makes a nice little, again, not a very bulky seam, and it still has enough stretch in it. So again, insert into those two loops, wrap the yarn around and pull through. So you're going to continue doing this all around the neckband, and making sure that you have an even number of stitches, because we're going to be working a one by one rib for the neckband, and then I'll show you how to bind off in rib. Okay, so now that you've completed working the one by one rib, the pattern usually calls for, or my pattern calls for, bind off in rib, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Get myself set up here, and so the next stitch, you would, if you had a marker here, you would remove your marker, and the next stitch is a knit stitch, so you would just knit that stitch like you normally would. The next stitch is a purl stitch, and you can tell that by, there's a bump there. Okay, so you would purl that stitch. Then you take the yarn, the first stitch that you knit, and you just pull it up and over the last stitch. So you've bound off one stitch. The next stitch, as it presents, is a knit stitch. So you would just knit that one. And then again, take the previous stitch, the other stitch on your needle, which was a purl stitch, and you'll just pass that over and drop it off your needle. So now, as you can see, the next stitch is a purl stitch. So you would purl that stitch. So what you'll do is you'll knit a stitch, purl a stitch, and then you'll have two stitches on your needle. Whoops, two stitches on your needle here. And you always pass the first one over the last one that was worked. So again, knit a stitch and pass one over. The next stitch is a purl stitch. So you would purl that stitch and then pass it over and you bind off. So this gives you a nice edge, and it does have quite a bit of stretch. This way the garment will easily fit over the head. Nothing worse than the bind off is too tight and the pullover won't go over the head. So I'll work all the way around, and I'll meet you back here, and I'll show you what to do with the last stitch. Okay, so now we've made it all around. Bound off all those stitches, and we have one stitch left. So you're gonna, I'd like to just extend that loop, just get your needle out of the way, and then you can cut your yarn. And slip that. Actually, what you're going to do here is just pull this all the way through that last loop. And then slip that on your darning needle and go into the first stitch that was worked. That's this loop here and the back one here. You can see that that's that row there. Pull the yarn through, and then we're going to complete this stitch by going into not this bump right there, but I like to go in the one right next to it in the center of that stitch and just pull it through, and it creates a nice finish here, and then there won't be a big bump, and then you just turn it inside and just weave it in, and that's it. This little neckband has quite a bit of give in it. As you can see, I'm going to try to zoom out a bit here so you can see it has a lot of stretch. So yeah, so I hope this video helped you, and this is how to bind off in rib.